Hi everyone, welcome back to the Behind the Scenes series. Today, I'll be walking you through this time-lapse build of the Opportunity Dashboard. If you'd like to see how the finished dashboard works, there's a link above where you can explore the full functionality in detail. All the resources you'll need are available for download in the description, so you can follow along and try it out on your own. Let's dive straight in. We'll start with a blank Power BI file, ready for a fresh build. First, let's bring in the data from Excel. Once the file is open, select the Worksheets, Data, Dim Domain, Dim Engage, Dim Stage, Dim Status, Dim Team, Funnel, and Target. Make sure all of them are ticked, then click Load to bring the data into Power BI. With the data now loaded, switch over to the Model view to verify that all the relationships are correct. Power BI usually detects these automatically based on matching fields, but it's always a good habit to double-check. Then we'll move on to the table view. Start by adding a new column, which will be used in the funnel visual. Apply the DAX formula provided in the BI template. Once that's done, repeat the step to add another column, this time for the value. Now that the data model is ready, let's move on to the report view and begin designing the dashboard layout. First, open the Format pane, go to Canvas Background, and change the background color to a slightly different shade of white. Then, reduce the transparency to 0 so the dashboard has a solid backdrop. From here, let's proceed to add the dashboard title. Insert a new text box. Increase the font size to 28 and type in Opportunity Dashboard. After that, switch to the Format pane to adjust the text box size and position it neatly at the top left corner of the page. Remove the background too, so the title blends nicely into the design. And that completes our header section. Next, we'll add a parameter to allow users to switch between metrics. Go to the Modeling tab, select New Parameter, and choose Fields. From here, select the measures Funnel Count and Funnel Value. Rename each field by removing the funnel prefix, making the names clearer and easier to understand. Then click Create to add the parameter. And to turn this parameter slicer into an interactive button style control, simply change its slicer type to button. Then format the slicer by adjusting its size, and position it at the top right of the dashboard so it balances the title. Also turn off the background so it sits naturally within the layout, and disable the visual title. In the slicer settings, enable force selection so that one option is always active. Under Layout, reduce the number of columns displayed from 3 to 2, since we only have 2 options, Count and Value. Then, for the callout values, change the font color to a lighter shade of black, and center-align the text for a balanced appearance. Next, under the button setting, change the shape from rectangle to rounded rectangle, and adjust the corner radius to 3 for a softer look. Also set the padding option to custom, and adjust the top padding to 2 to make the layout look slightly more compact. Finally, format the selected button state. Change the fill to a lighter shade of black. And remove the border completely to achieve a minimal look. Now, let's move on to the next stage of the build. Create a dedicated table to hold all our DAX measures. Name the table Measure Table, and then click Load. Once the table has been created, expand the Data pane, and right-click on Measure Table, then choose New Measure to add the first measure. Apply the DAX formula provided in the BI template for the base count. After the measure is added, delete the default column 1 from the table since we won't be needing it. This keeps the measure table clean and tidy. Next, we'll go ahead and create the remaining measures required for this dashboard. To keep the video moving, I'll fast forward through this section, but don't worry, all the DAX formulas are available in the downloadable BI template. And if you're interested in seeing how to group your DAX measures into folders for easier navigation, feel free to check out the link above. I've included a quick walkthrough there. Once the measures are ready, we can begin building the dashboard visuals. Let's start with the first visual. Insert a new card visual and assign the field total open label to it. Once the card appears, carefully resize it and position it just below the dashboard title so it sits neatly within the layout. Turn off the background for a clean, cohesive look. Under callout values, reduce the font size to 30. Change the color to a deep green to align with the dashboard's theme. And center align the text. Then, under label settings, reduce the space between the label and the value to 0, and disable the label altogether to keep the visual focused purely on the key figure. Next, we'll add reference labels to provide more context. Add the field's total label, followed by total variance label. At this point, change the Select Series option to All, so you can format both labels together. Turn off the title, then update the value font color to a lighter shade of black for subtle contrast. Under Divider Settings, change the line color to gray. Set the line style to dotted, and increase the width to 2 for better definition. Turn off the background and change the position from below callout to right of callout so the supporting information appears beside the main value. Now, let's fine-tune the individual label formatting for clarity. Select the Total Open Label series first, then switch to Total Variance Label. Under Value, change its color to green to highlight the variance figure clearly. Once the labels are done, move to the Card Settings section. Change the padding from Normal to Custom, then adjust both the top and bottom padding to 0 so the content aligns neatly. Also, turn off both the background and border to keep the visual lightweight. With our Total Opportunities card in place, let's move on and add a title for the funnel section. We will first set the font size to 16. Make it bold. And type Sales Funnel. After that, resize the text box. And position it neatly just below the first card. Then remove its background for a clean finish. Next, we'll start building the sales funnel visual itself. Insert a new card and add the fields S1 Select Actual, S2 Select Actual, S3 Select Actual, S4 Select Actual, and S5 Select Actual to the data field. Once all the fields are added, resize the card to fit the intended space and position it directly beneath the funnel title. Turn off its background so it fits cleanly into the layout. Now, open the multi-card layout settings and increase the max cards shown to 5 so all 5 sales stages appear side by side. Under Callout Value Settings, reduce the font size to 22. Then, for its label, reduce the space between the label and the value to 0, and increase the transparency to 100% to hide the label completely. After we are done with the callout value, we will go to the Reference Labels section. Add the field's variance label and S1 Select Variance, and change the series option to All to format all the label together. Disable the title. Then under Divider, set the width to 0. Once the divider is set, proceed to turn off the background. In the spacing setting, set the space between labels to 0 and activate Customize Outer Padding. Set the padding before the divider line to 3, and after the divider line to 6 for balanced spacing. Now, we'll format each reference label individually. Start with the S1 Select Actual series. After selecting it, choose Variance Label, and update its value color to a lighter shade of black, so it appears softer and blends more naturally. Next, we'll proceed to the S2 Select Actual series. Add the field's Variance label, and S2 Select Variance. Then, just like before, select Variance label, and set its value color to gray to maintain a consistent look. After that, move on to the S3 Select Actual series. Repeat the same steps by adding Variance label and S3 Select Variance. Then, select Variance label again and apply the same format, switching its color to gray. Continue to the S4 Select Actual series, adding both Variance label and S4 Select Variance. Once the fields are added, select Variance label again. And set the value color to gray as well. Finish this step by repeating for the S5 Select Actual. Add Variance label and S5 Select Variance. Then select Variance label again. And change the value color to gray, so that all 5 series follow the same visual style. Once all the series are formatted, we'll fine-tune the card settings. Switch the padding from default to custom, then set the top padding to 15 and the left padding to 35 to give the visuals a bit more breathing space. Turn off both the background and the border to keep the design clean. Now that the data cards are ready, let's go ahead and draw the sales funnel chart itself. Insert an area chart. Add funnel ID to the x-axis and the F-actual to the y-axis. After adding the fields, resize the chart appropriately and position it neatly beneath the data cards. Remove the background too, and disable the chart title so it stays minimal. For the y-axis, turn off both the values and title to keep the focus on the funnel shape. Under line settings, change the interpolation type from linear to smooth, and update the line color to gray to align with the overall design. Then, open the shade area section. Set the area transparency to 0% and disable match line color to allow for custom coloring. From here, we'll refine the color gradient for each stage. Begin by setting the category value at 0.5 to a light green as the starting point of the gradient. Next, set the category 1.0 to that same light green, allowing the gradient to feel more gradual. And at 2.0, introduce a slightly deeper shade of green to signal the first noticeable step in progression. At 3.0, move into a medium green to mark the midpoint of the range. Then, at 4.0, select a richer, more saturated green to create a sense of advancement. At 5.0, choose the darkest green to represent the most mature stage. Finally, set 5.5 to that same darkest shade to stabilize the endpoint and maintain a consistent finish across your gradient. Now that the funnel shape is complete, let's make the visual layout even cleaner and easier to interpret. To start, we'll add some dividing lines between each funnel stage. Go to the Insert ribbon. Then open the Shapes drop-down and select the Line option. Next, carefully resize the line before positioning it to sit neatly between Stage 1 and Stage 2. Under Shape Style, turn off the fill completely and set the border color to a light gray for a subtle, non-distracting divider. Then, under Rotation, change the value to 90 degrees so that the line stands vertically between the two stages. Once that first line is set up, instead of creating new ones from scratch, let's simply duplicate it. This way, the size and formatting remain perfectly consistent. Now move the duplicated line carefully into position between Stage 2 and Stage 3. Next, we'll repeat the same process. Duplicate the line again and position it between Stage 3 and Stage 4, ensuring all the spacing looks even. And once more, duplicate the line and then move it neatly into place between Stage 4 and Stage 5. With the dividing lines now evenly spaced and aligned, we can move on to framing the funnel area. Go to the Insert ribbon again, and this time, under Shapes, select Rounded Rectangle. After that, carefully reposition the shape above the cards and adjust its size so that it covers the entire funnel section. Under Shape Style, reduce the rounded corners to about 3% for a softer look. Then, turn off the fill so that it doesn't block any visuals, and set the border color to gray for a subtle outline. Now that the funnel area is neatly framed, we'll finish it off by adding the final interactive element to enable stage filtering. To do this, insert a button slicer and add the stage field to it. Once added, resize the slicer so it aligns perfectly with the funnel stages, then position it directly above them for clear, intuitive navigation. Remove its background so that the funnel data beneath remains visible, and disable the title. Next, open the layout settings. Set the columns shown to 5, so that all 5 stage names appear side by side in a single row. Then, under the callout value settings, expand the layout option to align the text to the top for better vertical spacing. For the selected state, make the text bold, and change its color to green so users can instantly identify the active stage. From there, move on to the button formatting options. Switch the padding from the default to custom, and set the left padding to 31 to align the text. For the finishing touch, remove both the fill and border from the buttons to blend seamlessly with the funnel visuals. And with that, the sales funnel visual is now complete. As we move into the lower half of the dashboard, we'll start by inserting a new text box to create section titles. After inserting the text box, set the font size to 16. Adjust the font color to dark green. Switch the font style to bold. And type in the first title, Status Review. Once you've entered the title, resize the text box to a suitable size and position it neatly at the top of the first section. Then, turn off the background. After setting up the first title, we can save time by duplicating it instead of creating new ones from scratch. Move the duplicated text box into position, and update its title to Team Performance. We'll do this one more time. Duplicate the same text box again for the last section, position it carefully to align with the other two, and update the text to Domain Focus. Now that all 3 section titles are in place, let's create background panels to define and separate these areas visually. From the Insert ribbon, open the Shapes menu and choose a rounded rectangle as the base shape. Position the rectangle neatly under the first section title, and fine-tune its size so it fits the section cleanly. Then, under Shape Style, reduce the rounded corners to 3% to keep the design consistent. Also turn off the fill. And change the border color to gray. Once the first shape is set, let's duplicate it so we can maintain the same formatting for the second panel. Take the duplicated shape and move it into position so it sits neatly beneath the second section title. Duplicate the shape once more for the third section, and place it beneath the Domain Focus title to maintain visual consistency across all panels. With the layout set up, let's begin designing the first section. Start by inserting a pie chart, then add status to the legend, and total open to values. Once the data fields are added, resize the chart to fit comfortably within the first panel, and adjust its position to sit nicely under the title. From there, set the top padding to 10, and turn off the background so it sits naturally within the panel. To reduce visual clutter, turn off both the title and the legend. Under the Slices settings, enable the border, then expand the border options to change its color to gray, and increase the transparency to 20%. Following that, we'll apply the dashboard's color scheme. Start by setting Active to green, which serves as the primary color. Continue by assigning New a lighter shade of green to create a softer contrast. And complete the set by applying Inactive as a darker green to anchor the dashboard's color palette. Then, under Detail Labels, update the label contents to category, % of total. And set the percentage decimal places to 1 for a polished, consistent look. Finally, return to the pie chart and sort the axis in ascending order for a logical, smooth visual flow. And that wraps up the first section. Next, let's move on to the Team Performance section. Start by inserting a line and stacked column chart. Add Team to the X-axis, Total Open to the column Y-axis, and total target to the line y-axis. After adding the fields, rename Total Open to Opportunities and Total Target to Target for clarity. Now, move to the Format pane to fine-tune its appearance. Resize the chart so that it fits neatly within the second panel and position it properly to align with the overall dashboard layout. Turn off the background for a clean design, and disable the title to keep the visual minimal. For the x-axis, start by turning off the axis title. And then do the same for the y-axis, by disabling both its values and title to keep the chart clean and uncluttered. Next, turn off the legend title as well, to keep the layout streamlined. Moving on, under Columns, change the bar color to green to match the dashboard theme and increase the space between categories to 48% for better separation. Then, head over to the line settings. Carefully adjust the line color so the target is shown clearly in gray. And reduce the width all the way to 0, so the line itself becomes invisible. After that, head into the markers settings and enable them by turning on Show for all categories. Change the marker type to line. Then increase the marker size to 10 to improve visibility. Finally, set the marker color to gray, allowing it to complement the target styling. Now, let's move on to the last section, Domain Focus. Insert a clustered bar chart. And add Domain to the y-axis, followed by Total Open and Total Target to the x-axis. Rename these fields to Opportunities and Target for consistency. After renaming the field, take a moment to resize the chart for a clean, well-proportioned look, and reposition it so it sits neatly inside the third panel. Then, set the left padding to 12 for balanced spacing, and turn off the background. Also disable the title as it is not required. For the y-axis, start by turning off the axis title to keep the visual uncluttered. And for the x-axis, we'll disable both the axis values and the title too. To maintain consistency with the other visuals, turn off the legend title as well. Under Bars Settings, increase the space between categories to 30% to improve visual clarity. Now let's format each series. Select the Opportunities series first, change its color to green, and set its transparency to 15%. Then select the Target series, change its color to gray, and increase its transparency to 30%. And with that, the final visual domain focus is complete. Now that all the visuals are in place, it's time to configure the interactions that make everything dynamic. To begin, go to the Format ribbon and click on Edit Interactions. We'll start with the Domain Focus chart. Set its interaction mode to filter for both the pie chart and the team performance chart. Then, move on to configure the team performance chart. Set it to filter for both the domain focus chart and the pie chart, so selecting a team filters the other visuals accordingly. Finally, do the same for the pie chart. Set it to filter for both the team performance and domain focus charts. This completes the circle of interactions. Click Edit Interactions again to exit the editing mode. And just like that, your dashboard is now fully interactive. Now, let's take a moment to organize the report structure. Rename the current page to Dashboard to clearly identify it as the main view. From here, the next step is to set up the custom tooltips. Duplicate this page to create a working copy for the tooltip setup. Rename it to Working, as this will be the page where we build them. First, we need to make space for the tooltip elements. Simply highlight all the components in the top half and delete them, leaving the lower visuals intact. This gives us a clean workspace to build from. Let's start creating our first tooltip, which will be used for the status review section. Insert a new card visual and add the field Tooltip Open label to its data field. Then, rename it to Opportunity for easier reference later on. After renaming the field, proceed to resize the card and position it neatly above the pie chart area. Turn off the background too. Continuing on, under callout value, set the font size to 15 so the number stands out clearly. Then, under label settings, reduce the font size to 8, set the position to below value, and adjust the space between label and value to 0 for a compact layout. Once we are done with the callout values, switch to the card formatting section. Update the padding setting to custom, and set the left padding to 30 and the top padding to 0. Finally, turn off both the background and border to maintain a clean and minimal style. Once that's complete, let's move on to the second card, which will show the percentage value for this tooltip. Insert another new card visual, and this time, add tooltip % label to its data field. After the field is added, resize this second card and position it above the first card. Next, adjust the internal left padding to 12 and disable the background to keep the design consistent. Under callout value, reduce the font size to 15. Then, in the label settings, set the space between label and value to 0 and turn the label off to keep the design minimal. Now, go to the layout settings and change the alignment to top so the value sits nicely aligned with the first card. Under card padding, again switch to custom and set the left padding to 20, the top padding to 3, and the bottom padding to 0. And once more, disable both the background and border for a clean appearance. Finally, enable the accent bar. To match its color with the corresponding slice in the pie chart, click the FX button to open conditional formatting, and set the format style to field value. Then, base it on the field tooltip color. Following that, increase the accent bar width to 10 for better visibility. And that completes the setup for our first tooltip. Next, we'll continue by building the second and third tooltip layouts together, since both share similar structure. Starting with the tooltip for team performance, insert a new card visual. Assign the field team to the data field. After that, resize the card slightly and position it neatly at the top of the layout, so that the tooltip highlights the team name as the first key detail. Remove its background to keep the design clean and consistent with the earlier tooltip style. Under callout value, reduce the font size to 18 so the team name remains clear, and center align the text to keep the layout visually tidy. For the label, reduce the space between the label and the value to 0, and turn off the label entirely. From here, we'll move over to configure the reference labels so they display the target variants clearly. Add the field's total label and tooltip variance label to the reference label section. Then, change the series selection to all, and set the label position to right of callout. Also turn off the title, and under value, set the font size to 10, and switch the color to gray, helping the value blend naturally into the tooltip. For the divider, update the color to a light gray so it sits softly against the background, change the line style to dotted, and set the width to 2 to create a clean, understated separation. Turn off the background once again. At this point, zoom in to select the team series. From there, select Tooltip Variance label and change its value color to green, ensuring the variance stands out while remaining consistent with the dashboard's color theme. In the card formatting section, change the padding settings to custom, and set both top and bottom padding to 0 so everything aligns tightly. Then, turn off the background and the border. With that completed, let's move on to the next tooltip, the one for domain focus. Insert a new card visual, and this time assign the field domain to the data field. After adding the field, resize the card appropriately, and then position it just above the domain focus chart. Set the left padding to 8, and again, turn off the background. Once the initial setup is done, continue by formatting the callout value. Adjust the font size down to 18, and under the label settings, reduce the space between the label and the value to 0 before disabling the label entirely. Now, let's add the reference labels. Include the field's total label and tooltip variance label for this section. Then select all for the series and set the label position to right of callout for both labels. Disable the title and format the value by setting the font size to 10 and changing the text color to a lighter shade of black. Similar to the earlier tooltip, go to the divider settings and update its styling by changing the color to gray, setting the line style to dotted, and adjusting the width to 2 to ensure a consistent visual appearance throughout. Turn off the background as well. Next, select the domain series, followed by the tooltip variance label, and change the value color to green to match the previous tooltip style. At this point, we are done with the reference label. Switch to the card formatting section, change the padding from normal to custom, and set both top and bottom padding to 0. Once again, disable both the background and border to keep the layout clean and consistent. Now, let's return to the Team Performance tooltip to include more data. Insert another new card visual and add the fields Tooltip Open label and Tooltip Target label. Rename these fields to Opportunity and Target for clarity and consistency across visuals. With the naming in place, take a moment to resize the card and position it neatly just beneath the team name section. Under padding, set the top value to 0 and adjust the left padding to 12. At the same time, turn off the background so the card blends seamlessly into the tooltip layout. In the callout value settings, reduce the font size to 16. Then, under label settings, reduce the font size to 9 to keep the text subtle. Set the label position to below value, and reduce the space between the label and value to 0, ensuring the two elements stay compact within the card. Under card settings, change the padding to custom, increase the left padding to 26, and again, disable both background and border. Now, let's add some visual emphasis using accent bars. Select the Opportunity series, then enable the accent bar to add a clear visual cue. Change the accent bar color to green to mirror the Opportunity bar, and set the width to 10 to give it enough visual weight. With the Opportunity series already styled, move on to the Target series, and enable the accent bar for it as well. Then, change the bar color to gray. Increase the transparency to 20%. And set the width to 10 so it remains visually consistent with the other series. Under the multi-card layout, switch the arrangement to vertical so that the Opportunity and Target values are displayed in a top-down order. The next step is to create a duplicate of this card for the third tooltip, and then fine-tune its size before placing it directly beneath the domain name, making sure it aligns neatly with the rest of the tooltip elements. Next, in the card settings, select the Opportunity series again, and under Accent Bar, change the bar color to match the domain's Opportunity shade, with transparency set to 15% to give the bar a softer look. From here, we'll turn our attention to the final visual element. Insert a new donut chart. Then add the field engagement to the legend, and total open to values. After assigning the fields, begin by adjusting the size of the donut chart. As you do this, reposition the chart so it sits neatly beneath the target variance section, and turn off the background. Next, disable both the chart title and legend to simplify the visual. Then, adjust the padding by setting the top, right, and bottom padding values to 0. Now, move on to the slices settings. Begin by selecting Direct and change its color to light green to match the dashboard theme. Then, select Partner and update its color to dark green for contrast. After that, expand the Detail Labels section. Set the label position to Prefer Outside, and for the label content, choose Category, % of total. To keep the labels compact, reduce the font size to 8. And set the percentage decimal places to 0 for a clear, uncluttered tooltip. Finally, once everything looks right, take a moment to duplicate this donut chart for use in the third tooltip, ensuring the layout, colors, and formatting remain consistent. Then position the duplicated donut chart just below the target variance section. And with that, all three tooltip layouts are fully set up. Now, we can move on to building the tooltip pages. Start by adding a new page and renaming it to Tooltip 1. Then add another new page and rename it to Tooltip 2. And finally, add one more page and rename it to Tooltip 3. Once the pages are set up, return to the working page. Highlight all the elements that make up the first tooltip, then copy them. Go to the Tooltip 1 page and paste the elements in. At this point, the visuals may not appear as expected because no metric has been selected yet, and that's perfectly fine. Position all visuals neatly near the top left corner of the page. Once everything is in place, click on the blank canvas to deselect the visuals. With nothing selected, open Page Information and under Page Type, change it to Tooltip. After that, move down to Canvas Settings, switch the type from Default to Custom, and carefully resize the canvas so it wraps closely around the visuals. Next, repeat these steps for the second and third tooltips. Return to the working page, highlight all the visuals used for the second tooltip, and copy them. Then navigate to the Tooltip 2 page, paste the visuals in, and reposition them neatly toward the top left corner. Once again, click on the blank canvas to deselect everything. Go to Page Information, change the page type from Standard to Tooltip. And under Canvas Settings, set the type to Custom. And resize the canvas to fit the elements. Now, head back to the working page to set up the final tooltip. As before, highlight all the elements that belong to the third tooltip. And copy them. Then, switch to the Tooltip 3 page, paste the visuals in, and position them toward the top left corner of the page once again. After that, click on the blank canvas to deselect the visuals. Open Page Information and update the page type to Tooltip. From there, under the Canvas Settings, change the type to Custom, and adjust the canvas size so it fits neatly around the layout. With the tooltip pages ready, we can now link them to their respective charts on the dashboard. Navigate back to the dashboard page and select the pie chart. From here, open the Properties pane and under the Tooltip settings, choose Tooltip 1 from the list. After that, select the Team Performance chart and assign Tooltip 2 as its tooltip. Then, move on to the Domain Focus chart and link it to Tooltip 3, finalizing the tooltip setup. Having linked all the tooltips, the final step is to set the stage order correctly so it appears as intended. Switch over to the table view, select the stage column, and under Sort by Column, choose Stage ID. The stages should now appear in the correct sequence. Return to the report view to review the updated order. Before wrapping up, let's test the dashboard to ensure it works as expected. Start by selecting the value in the button slicer to confirm the visuals refresh smoothly. Then hover over each chart to verify that the tooltips appear correctly, allowing you to review the information to ensure each tooltip presents the intended details clearly. Once everything checks out, go ahead and delete the working page. It's no longer needed. And with that, we've completed the full step-by-step walkthrough for building the Opportunity Dashboard entirely from scratch. If you're looking for more dashboard tips and templates, be sure to check out my earlier videos. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to subscribe. I'll see you in the next video.